Grab some popcorn and a favorite chair. The love of movies is why we're here. Press play and don't delay. Let's Phil be our guide to a cinematic day. Phil at the movies, from the silver screen to his podcast stream. Phil's covering every movie dream. Phil at the movies. Phil at the movies.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Phil with the Movies. I'm your host, Phil Walsh, and this is show number 147 of this ongoing podcast that is, you guessed it, for the love of movies. Still in the process here, trying to arrange the setup, the studio. Oh, actually, kind of feels kind of presumptuous to say it's not really a studio. It's not that high tech, but you get the impression. The setup is still a work in progress, so I promise in a future video it will look much more presentable. But just I've been under the weather the last few weeks, and then trying to keep this podcast going and recording, and just trying to rearrange things. It's been kind of a everything is everywhere, but everything is everywhere all at once. You movie buffs will get the reference. But any event, today, since we are now in the midst of 2025, looking ahead at the year that is unfolding, we're only just a few weeks in, I thought today would be a good time to give you my top 5 most anticipated films of the year. I know, kind of being fun and clever with top 5 of 25. So I hope you enjoy. Took me a while to really sort down this list and narrow it to 5 films, but these are the top 5 films that I am most looking forward to over the next 12 months. In addition, I love it when movies appear out of nowhere, movies that I wasn't expecting or sort of weren't on my radar. I think of a film like The Substance from last year, or Longlegs. Those films were nowhere near my periphery, and then they came into my life and I welcomed them with open arms. So I'm hoping that this year has a few more surprises in that tradition as well. But here we go, my top 5 most anticipated films of the year. Of course, I would appreciate it if you would like and subscribe to the channel, give a like for this video as well, and drop in the comments below your top 5 favorite films of the year. Gonna give you my top 5 most anticipated films of the year. So to round it out, starting at the number 5 slot, and this film doesn't actually have an announced date yet, though we do know it is coming in 2025. It will be on Netflix. And it is Wake Up Dead Man. This is the 3rd installment in the Knives Out trilogy. This is the follow-up to Glass Onion that came out back in 2022, starring Daniel Craig as the incomparable private detective Benoit Blanc. I was not a big fan, I shouldn't say. The second one is inferior to the original Knives Out. I think Knives Out is a perfect modern age murder mystery that embraces a lot of the tropes and trappings that are familiar with the genre, but Rian Johnson found a way to sort of crack the code, if you will, and innovate with his characters and his situations, and of course the fantastic creation that is Benoit Blanc. I know Daniel Craig will forever be known as James Bond, and he's a damn good James Bond, but I really think his work as Blanc in the Knives Out films really deserves a lot of recognition and praise, and it's almost become my instinct, my reflex whenever I think of a Daniel Craig film at this point. But in any event, I'm a big fan of the original Knives Out, and so of course when there was a sequel, I was hyped and ready for it. And it's a good film. I'm not going to say it's a bad film, because it is a good film. It's a really clever mystery, but it's one of those films where after you've seen it, there's really no reason to revisit it again. Maybe do a rewatch so you can pick up on a few of the pieces that you might have missed on the first watch. But after you know the twist, after you know the central mystery, the film doesn't have much rewatchability. Whereas Knives Out, even though you know the twist, you know, okay, spoiler alert, that Chris Evans is the murderer at the end of the film, there is something about that movie's execution and the characters that make it all the more worthwhile. I've always said the difference between Knives Out and Glass Onion, in Knives Out, we're actually being treated to a story with characters. In Glass Onion, we're getting caricatures. And certainly tropes and kind of cardboard cutouts, if you will, that may be a little unfair, but that is common in the mystery genre. You sort of have your character types. That felt very present in Glass Onion, whereas Knives Out, even though you have sort of the tricks of the trade and the trappings of a mystery, there was still that element of surprise, and the characters felt real and grounded in this universe. So all of that being said, even though I was a little kind of let down by Glass Onion, I have high hopes for Wake Up Dead Man, and largely because Daniel Craig is returning as Benoit Blanc, but in addition, you've got a fantastic new cast of characters. So just off the top of my head, you've got Glenn Close, you've got Kaylee Spaney, you've got Josh Brolin, you've got Andrew Scott, you've got Kerry Washington, you've got Josh O'Connor. I mean, a stacked cast, and that's again the genius of Rian Johnson with these previous two films. He's been able to bring in this sort of high caliber A class talent to fill out the supporting roles and sort of the main players, if you will. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. Not much is known about this film. It is coming in 2025, and I can't wait to see it. I love a good murder mystery, and I love the character of Benoit Blanc. He is right up there with the greats. Of you think of Columbo, you think of Hercule Poirot, you think of Sherlock Holmes. He is right there in that same conversation. So right there, number 5 for me is Wake Up Dead Man, the third installment in the Knives Out trilogy. Let's hope that this one redeems itself more than Glass Onion, but certainly time will tell. All right, the next one on my list, as I said a couple weeks back when I reviewed A Complete Unknown, a big fan of Timothy Chalamet. He can do no wrong in my eyes. I think he is the best actor of his generation, and I'm always intrigued to see what he picks for roles. Again, whether it's Bob Dylan, most recently, Willy Wonka, Paul Atreides, he is a versatile actor who continues to avoid being put in a box, if you will. And again, I think that is a real testament to his talent. But this film is Marty Supreme, and it is number 4 for me on my most anticipated films of the year. This one is the farthest away from where we are. It comes out in December of this year. Christmas time is actually becoming associated, funny enough, with Timothy Chalamet movies. So kind of figure out Wonka was in 2023. You had A Complete Unknown in 2024. Now in 2025, Marty Supreme is going to kind of complete the Christmas trifecta. But I'm really looking forward to this film because it's loosely based on the life of American ping pong champion Marty Reisman. And he's playing sort of a fictionalized version of it. It's centered on ping pong championships. And I'm just really curious to see what this is going to be about. Not much is known in terms of the details surrounding the film other than just sort of the loose log line. But it's a Timothy Chalamet film. I'm going to be there for this one. It should be a great time. It's distributed by A24, another one of those studios that is very near and dear to my heart. So Timothy Chalamet is going to be completing the roster, if you will, at the end of the year. So looking forward to Marty Supreme. That is number 4 for me on my most anticipated films of the year. All right, moving along, moving to a little bit closer to a soon-to-be-released film. Longlegs was one of my favorite films of last year. As I've said, but for Nosferatu, Longlegs, I think, would have been my favorite film easily. I'm a big horror fan. I thought this was a great reinvention of sort of the subgenre, if you will, kind of, Silence of the Lamb meets kind of a Rosemary's Baby, Satanic Panic type situation. Really, really enjoyed it. Directed by Osgood Perkins, and he is back this year with Neon Studios to do The Monkey. And so number 3 for me is The Monkey. And again, another film where not much is known. It is based on a short story by Stephen King. I have not read it, so I don't know. I have not read it. Get the pun there. Um, but I have not read the short story, so I don't know much beyond what is the simple premise, and I'll just read it to you because I think it's very intriguing. After stumbling upon their father's vintage toy monkey in the attic, twin brothers Hal and Bill witness a string of horrifying deaths unfolding around them. In an attempt to leave the haunting behind, the brothers discard the monkey and pursue separate paths over time. However, with the inexplicable deaths resurface, the brothers are compelled to reconcile and embark on a mission to permanently eliminate the cursed toy. Again, the trailer really hooked me in. Today, actually, it was released, but even before that, I have been on this bandwagon because Osgood Perkins is another director that continues to impress me, and he's sort of becoming a name onto himself, even though, of course, he hails from sort of Hollywood legends. He is the son of Anthony Perkins, but he really has carved out his own path as a writer and director, and Longlegs really just showed his chops last year. I know he's going to deliver again with The Monkey. So again, horror films are always going to be top of mind for me, and this is one of those cases where, yep, sign me up. I'm there opening night. All right, now we're getting really interesting. Top 2. All right, number 2 is Frankenstein. Now, this is another film. It's going to be on Netflix like Wake Up Dead Man, but not much is known in terms of when the film will be released other than in 2025. My guess is it will probably be towards the fall. That's my hunch. So, again, don't hold me to it, but that is my gut feeling. And it is directed by Guillermo del Toro, who is another innovative and brilliant filmmaker. And if there was ever somebody that I would want to have tackle a Frankenstein, we'll call it a remake, but I have a feeling he's going to put his own unique spin on it. Sign me up right away. He directed a few years back The Shape of Water, which was a sort of an updated take on The Creature from the Black Lagoon, but it was sort of The Creature from the Black Lagoon meets Beauty and the Beast. And so I'm really curious to see what he is going to tackle with Frankenstein, this epic, gothic, classic tale that, interestingly enough, has been the focus of many films over the years and many imaginings and reimaginings, but it has been quite some time since we've had a real sort of gothic classic tradition, sort of thinking back to the Universal monster movies of the 1930s. I have a feeling Del Toro is going to tap into that similar vein, and I just can't wait to see what he has cooked up. And the cast of this film is incredible. You've got the legendary Christoph Waltz, you've got Oscar Isaac, you've got Mia Goth, you've got Jacob Elordi. I mean, dear God, what a cast. And you just know, given that it is Del Toro, he is going to be cooking up something otherworldly and imaginative, and it's going to be bold and exciting. I can't wait to see this film. I just want to get more information. I want to see a trailer. We've only gotten, I think, 1 or 2 photos over the last few months, and I'm just like craving information. I'm like, just give me a poster at this point. I want to see a little bit more for this film, but I guess all good things to those who wait. So there we go. Number 2 for me is Frankenstein, and that brings me to number 1. Drum roll, please. Dramatic applause. Number 1, my most anticipated film of the year and it is releasing in just under 2 months. It is Mickey 17, starring Robert Pattinson. I have been looking forward to this film ever since it was announced. It is directed by Oscar-winning director Bong Joon-ho, who was, of course, the innovative mind behind Parasite from 2019, another masterpiece of a film. This movie has been delayed. It feels like forever at this point. It feels like the movie should have come out by now, but again, I guess all good things to those who wait. But it is coming March 7th. I will be there opening night. This is my most anticipated film of the year. And why is this my most anticipated film of the year? Well, in addition to the director, who, again, I think he is another brilliant, innovative mind who always seems to pick projects that are sort of outside the box. And this feels like a classic outside the box pick. The plot of the film just really intrigues me. I will read it to you if you were not familiar. Mickey Barnes, who of course is played by Robert Pattinson, has found himself in the extraordinary circumstance of working for an employer who demands the ultimate commitment to the job: to die for a living. I encourage you, if you have not watched the trailer, to give it a watch through, because it is a sci-fi film, but it is not in a kind of far out there Star Trekian, Star Wars-ish way. There are elements of science fiction and fantasy, but really what sold me on this from the time I saw the first trailer was the comedy. And Robert Pattinson is essentially playing multiple versions of himself, thus the title, Mickey 17. I can't wait to see what he does. Pattinson is another actor who, again, I feel is so versatile. He is a great chameleon. He can play any kind of role, and this just feels like another spotlight on his particular skills and talents. I can't wait for this film. I have been waiting for it, honestly, since last year. It's been delayed, feels like 2 or 3 times at this point. But now, March 7th is the date. I cannot wait for it. I will be there opening night. So there we have it. March 7th, Mickey 17. That is my number 1 most anticipated film of the year. So there we go. I did it. A little bit of a longer episode. Appreciate you all taking the time to listen along. I'll read off the list one more time. My top 5 most anticipated films of 2025. Number 5 is Wake Up Dead Man. Number 4 is Marty Supreme. Number 3 is The Monkey. Number 2 is Frankenstein. And number 1, Mickey 17. All right, everybody, that does it for me. Those are my top 5 most anticipated films of the year. Drop your list in the comments below. What top 5 films are you most looking forward to this year? I'm looking forward to reviewing these and many, many more over the next year. But that does it for now. I'll be back next week. And yes, we will do this all over again for the love of movies.
Fill out the movies from the silver screen to his podcast stream. Phil's covering every movie dream. Fill out the movies makes every